Lower your ping with What the Fast. What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Throughout the history of League of Legends, there's been a bunch of champions that have significantly impacted the meta during their time in the spotlight. And every now and then, it's fun to take a look back at what used to be. Let's get started. Keep in mind as we go through the top 5 meta-defining champions, what a meta-defining champion is. Loads of champions have been ridiculously overpowered here and there, but they didn't always shape the meta. A meta-defining champion changed the meta significantly and was really impactful to the meta at the time. They may not have been the number one strongest champion, but they paved the way for new strategies that stayed relevant for quite a while. And jumping right into it with number 5, we have Graves in Season 2. Now this would definitely be a bit higher on the list if it wasn't for the fact that Ezreal and Corki also contributed to the meta that Graves defined. Back in Season 2, there was an AD carry trifecta of only Corki, Ezreal, and Graves, and any other champions were considered significantly inferior in the AD carry role. I chose Graves to represent this since he was the main champion that set the base level for ADs. This happened because in Season 2 the meta was in a prime spot for AD carries, the strongest they've ever been. And because of this, late game focused AD carries were actually really suboptimal, since the AD carry trifecta were way stronger throughout the early and mid game, all while having a still fairly comparable late game. AD carries just destroyed the late game, so it really didn't matter that they were mid game focused, since their late game would be strong enough no matter what, just because they were an AD carry. This shoved out all non-mid game AD carries completely out of the meta until a large amount of nerfs were given to the strong mid game AD trio. And for number 4, we have Shen in Season 2. Apart from the AD carry trifecta, the Season 2 meta was completely dominated by global abilities. Globals were huge in Season 2, and you would quite often see 1 or 2 globals on each team every single game. Shen was the main champion who started the global craze, and they remained popular until Assassins arose in Season 3. Games were often just flat out decided by whichever team got more globals into their team comp, and teams were so good at making use of them to their fullest potential, and so when Shen did come up, teams realized that globals were really strong, and so the meta revolved around them for the rest of the season pretty much. And with number 3, we have Zed in Season 3. For those who were around in Season 2, you'll remember that Assassins at the time were pretty much non-existent. In fact, they were completely unviable in competitive play. But with the release of Zed, the way was paved for Assassins to completely dominate the Season 3 meta. Zed was the first of many Assassins to rise up at the time, and the entire meta either involved Assassins or were based around them for a very long time. And it was Zed who started all of this and set the stage for the Assassin meta, weakening a lot of AD carry champions. For number 2, we have Renekton in late Season 3 and Season 4. Back when Renekton was really strong, the entire top lane meta was as simple as, can your champion lane against Renekton? No? Well, that champion is not a viable top laner. And this lasted for a long time. Top lane champions were completely judged based on how well they could lane against Renekton. And due to the fact that it took Renekton a very long time to get nerfed, this top lane meta lasted for a fairly long time. The entire top lane meta at the time completely revolved around him, and he paved the way for AP top laners to come up after a while, due to the fact that they did so well against him in lane. Renekton single-handedly threw out a bunch of top laners who were weak during the laning phase, and even now top laners who have trouble in lane really suffer to this day, and really it all started with Renekton. And lastly, bringing home the gold medal, we have Lee Sin, all the way from Season 2 to the very end of Season 4. Lee Sin is pretty easily at the top due to the sheer length that his reign over the jungle had. He's been extremely strong in competitive play for years, and he single-handedly set the standard for the strength of an early game jungler. If a jungler could not survive a solo invade from Lee Sin, well, then they just weren't a viable jungler. He single-handedly threw out a huge portion of junglers out of the meta due to their weak early games, and forced champions to be at least somewhat strong early, or face a game-deciding punishment that was honestly pretty easy to pull off with the early game invade. A large part of junglers' power was judged on what was called the Lee Sin factor, meaning how well the champion could do against Lee Sin and a Lee Sin invade, and a big amount of junglers just couldn't match up to the early game strength. Lee Sin remained so incredibly strong after even just a ridiculous amount of nerfs, and defined the entire jungle meta for about 2.5 to a good 3 solid seasons of competitive play, and as such is the #1 meta-defining champion of all time. And that just about wraps up my list. I really enjoy making these kinds of top 5 videos, so I hope you had as much fun watching this as I did making it. If you want to see more of this kind of stuff, definitely hit that like button so I can tell. My name is Jeremy, and that's it for my video on the top 5 meta-defining champions. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button so I can tell, and be sure to check me out over on all the socials of which you can see on your screen. And if you really enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe for some more awesome content in the future, or check out some of my other videos on your screen as well. And above all else, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.